So we'd like to thank you for joining us for this session of the monthly dialogues, during which we'll be focusing on electric cooking within mini-grids. We are especially excited to be hosting this seminar because, as we know, in as much as there has been progress with the extension of the national grid, there are still a lot of places that are out of reach. So solutions like mini-grids have been central to extending electricity access to those remote regions. And we have seen mini-grids in some of these regions that are remote, for example, in Turkana County and other areas towards the northern part of the country. There are also a few mini-grids in other places like Kisii and Busia. So to a degree, these mini-grids have offered solutions to those that are accessing electricity using these means. And research has shown that even though there are a few challenges that users of this electricity are facing, such as high tariffs and unstable supply in some contexts, for a large part, local communities are happy to be able to have these solutions with them, that they can now have electricity and for lighting especially and other uses within the home. So as a demand stimulation measure, mini-grid developers have been introducing electric appliances to their customers. One of these is electric cooking appliances, such as hot plates in some cases, and electric pressure cookers, as you will see from some of the presentations that we have today. So in this session, we will speak through the opportunities presented for electric cooking within mini-grids in detail. We have presenters that are implementing projects in Kenya and in other countries within Africa, for example, Tanzania, Sierra Leone, and there will also be someone from Rwanda sharing briefly regarding the experiences with electric pressure cookers on the mini-grids. So our amazing presenters today are going to shed light on the intricacies of electric cooking within mini-grids, and we'll also discuss some of the approaches that they have used so far to promote the use of especially energy efficient appliances with their customers. They will also speak on some of the opportunities that they have identified for scaling up this use. So just to move on, get things going, I'd like to request, and I can see that some of you are already ahead of us. I would like to request that you introduce yourself within the chat box. You can type your name, organization, and even enroll in the chat as we progress so that we can know who will be joining us for this important session. Secondly, please type any questions or comments that you have within the chat, and they will be addressed as the session progresses. As a reminder, if you are here and you're not part of the electric cooking community of practice currently and are interested in joining, you can contact me on the email address that was on the event poster. I'm also going to be typing it in the chat box so that you can reach me directly to let me know if you want to join the WhatsApp group and to be added on the database for the e-cooking community of practice members. So welcome again, and we hope that we can have an interactive session today. So I'd like to hand the program over to Paul.
Thank you, Beryl. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Osogo from the African Center for Technology Study Arts, working under the MEX project. And with respect to time, I think we'll just go ahead and start introducing our panelists today. We have 4 panelists, that is from Power Hive Mini-grids, Peter Ondara, and Kakuma, that is SNV Kaljin Gorin, Bidin Duda from Solaria, and the Power Gen Mini-grids, we have Anderson Bet. We also have RVE Soul Mini-grids, Lona Nyandat from Kudura. We'll start with Peter. Peter Ondara. Peter Ondara is a salesperson with over 7 years in renewable energy sector, 3 of those 7 years having tasked in e-cooking at the Power Hive, selling, promoting, marketing, and doing research of the electric cooking appliances. Peter, kindly take the floor, is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So, as the host has mentioned, I'm Peter Ondara. Hope everyone can hear me clearly. Okay, I'm Peter Ondara from Power Hive, representing e-cooking technology from Power Hive. So, having experience in like 7 years in renewable energy. 3 of those years are e-cooking using electrical appliances. So maybe I can start by introducing Power Hive. Power Hive is a technology venture that was founded on the year 2011. It has partnered with utilities and independent power producers to provide access to productive, affordable, and reliable mini-grid electricity for millions of people in rural areas. So our proprietary technology platform and business model enables financing, monetization, and management of off-grid utility solutions. Okay, so Power Hive, as in terms of e-cooking, has transformed from the time we started using electric hot plates in the year 2019. Earlier 2019, we started using hot plates to customers, of which the idea was well perceived by our customers, and they started using these hot plates. And the usage of these hot plates actually declined as time went by. The reason being the high cost of cooking compared to the existing available alternatives like firewood, charcoal. It was actually an expensive venture using these hot plates. As Power Hive, we did some research. We gathered feedback from customers. We did surveys and analysis. That's how we came up with an electric pressure cooker in the year 2020. The first pressure cooker was sold in the year 2020 February. So in the introduction of the EPCs, that's electric pressure cookers, it was actually a game changer to our customers, which was highly received by customers. And also its rating, it is actually 1000 watts. It was well accepted because it was cost friendly compared to alternatives that I've mentioned like firewood and the charcoal. So maybe if we can look at the features of these pressure cookers, which actually enables these customers to accept this technology of cooking and like firewood and charcoal. So actually, this pressure cooker, as you can see, maybe you can move at least. Yeah, it's okay. So its main features of this pressure cooker is the one that the customers like most. For example, it has a timer, as you can see from the screen, or at least we have some meals whose time is set as a timer. So it's actually very simple to key in the meal that you need to cook. It's simple to adapt, simple to use. We have rockable read, which is hard, which is very hard, which is responsible for keeping the pressure intact so that the food can cook fairly fast. Yeah, we have so many features of this. Maybe it has a keep warm function so that the food can keep warm as long as the customer need it to be. We have a preset function. You can set maybe a certain meal to cook at a certain time. Also, it has a screen, so you can see the minutes remaining for the food to cook. So next, in terms of marketing, we have used several approaches to market these EPCs. First of which being using groups to market pressure cookers, also to market the e-cooking. We use the door-to-door programs, of which we work door-to-door. Also, we use organized groups. So apart from the verbal trainings that we do in those areas that I've mentioned, we actually perform the actual cooking with the customers so that they can see how it works, how it functions, and also we actually any questions?
Maybe just a clarification. You have 30 seconds remaining. It's a 2-minute presentation.
Yes. Okay, so we
okay. So
okay, maybe I can. So to market the EPCs also, we have a cost-effective brochure that we have made to customers, of which it compares the amount of money the customer uses to use EPC, charcoal, and firewood. Also, we explain to them. So at a glance, you can see charcoal and firewood are very expensive to cook compared to electric pressure cooker. So next. So yeah, we have had some challenge. We have a financing plan of which we sell on cash 6,520. With this was an initial financing plan, 1,800 deposit and 280 monthly installments. But now we sell on cash. So next slide. We have challenges and also mitigation measures that we have made. So many challenges are readily available, cost-free cooking options like firewood. Hence, customers are unwilling to spend on e-cooking. Number two, it's hard to move customers from the culture of cooking using firewood. Hence, we need intensive cooking demonstrations in place. We have big families, number three, who need bigger EPCs, like the current electric pressure cooker can't satisfy them. Number four, we have poor economic status of most of our customers. Hence, some it's difficult to afford these pressure cookers. Also, the last challenges, for the customer who have purchased one, it takes a lot of time for training. This corresponds to the second culture to move this customer from the ancient culture. So for those customers who have actually taken TCPCs, they have actually said it has reduced their cooking time. Like githeri the most meal that takes a lot of time to cook. to cook using EPC, it takes like 40 minutes. So our plan as PIFE is just to sell to at least 3/4 of our customers, considering we have like 4,800 customers across our mini grids, so that we can eliminate carbon-related emissions. That's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for a well presented presentation. We have picked quite a number of issues that you pointed out, that most of the customers would like to have a bigger EPC, and challenges you're having. We look forward to the question and answer session. Now we move over to the next presenter. That's Kaljin and Bithi Ndunda, who will be presenting together. Kaljin is a project advisor with SNV, the Netherlands Development Organization, and coordinates the implementation of various clean energy access projects in Kakuma refugee camp. The projects promote market-based access to solar cooking solutions for household, businesses, and institutions. Prior to joining SNV, she worked with FMO Dutch Development Bank as a sustainable finance analyst. She holds a master's degree in global business and sustainability and international relations. Bithi Ndunda is the head of solar integrated appliances at Solara Enterprises. Both are social enterprises specializing in marketing and distribution of clean energy solutions for lighting, cooking, and productive use, with 8 stores in the North Rift region of Kenya. He has 12 years experience in the industry, having started off as a dealer in the D-Light Limited and M-Copper Limited in 2010. He is a holder of a BA in quantity surveying from the University of Nairobi. We welcome Kaljin Kroen and Bithi Ndunda to take over.
Okay, thank you so much, Paul. Yeah, so my name is Caroline Groen. I know it's a difficult one to pronounce if you don't know, but that's okay. Thank you so much. So yes, I work as a project advisor for SNV Kenya, and I lead the implementation of the piloting electric pressure cookers in Colombia, which we call the PepsiK project. This is a pilot in which it takes place in Colombia Integrated Settlement. This is part of Kakuma refugee camp, which is in the north of Kenya in Turkana. Currently, it has 40,000 residents. So Colombia Integrated Settlement has 40,000 residents. However, Kakuma refugee camp itself, it currently hosts 190,000 refugees. And together with the host community, there's 250,000 people staying in the area. Now, Colombia Integrated Settlement was connected to a solar mini-grid a few years ago. It was initially a 60 kilowatt peak mini-grid connecting 500 customers, but very recently they expanded. And so now they have the capacity to connect another 2,500 customers. And because of this mini-grid and our other project, which is also funded on the NDEF, we have been promoting the market for cooking and solar in the area. We saw the opportunity to pilot electric cooking because of the mini-grid connection. And so this is what this pilot is really looking at what is the potential to promote EPCs in a mini-grid context, and also more specifically in a displacement context, and what does it require and what are the barriers to develop a market for EPCs. And so we do this together with several partners. CLASP is co-implementing, and then we have a distributor called Solaria, who's also here presenting with me. And then of course the mini-grid operator, which is Renewvia Energy. Next slide. Yes, so what we did before we introduced the EPC is we did a market assessment or a baseline study to just understand where are people now in terms of cooking and expenses, and what is the potential for EPCs. So what we found is that, and what we already knew, is that people have very high fuel expenses. Because this is a refugee setting, people are not allowed to collect firewood, hence they procure in the markets. They get a small cash-based incentive from UNHCR, but this only covers about 10% of their monthly fuel needs. Hence, fuel has to be bought in the market and for high prices. So what we found is that households in Colombia, they pay about 2,800 per month, Kenyan shillings per month for fuel, while eateries, so SMEs that sell food, prepare and sell food, 7,800. And then the SMEs in specific, they also actually pay quite a lot of money for water. I think some even up to 6,000 Kenyan shillings per month. And then when we looked at electricity, the tariffs are low, but still there is low electricity consumption. Yeah, as you see, 180 per month are spent for households on electricity and 700 for SMEs, which implies very low usage of electricity and low use of appliances. When we were asking, were you interested to cook with electricity? All indicated yes, and also willingness to actually pay a portion of their limited income to purchase and use an EPC. However, they also mentioned that they would not be able to pay the cash price at once. Hence, there is need to have flexible payment models, but also tapping into community-based saving groups, because most of the refugees are actually not able to access formal financial services. And then another very important thing is, of course, that there needs to be a very consistent and sufficient supply of electricity, because people said that the way that they choose to make their meals is by the available fuel. Hence, if there's no electricity available, then of course you won't be cooking with electricity. Next slide, please. So after that, we started testing with 15 households and 5 eateries, all connected to the Miní-grids, testing EPCs from 4 different brands available in the Kenyan markets. What we found from, we basically trained them on using the EPC, and then we did frequent follow-up surveys, is that all participants are satisfied with the EPC and cook with it on average 1 to 2 times a day if electricity is available. The Miní-grid developer was working on the expansion, and sometimes there was some rationing of the electricity, and as expected, people resort to cooking with firewood or charcoal if the electricity is not working. The early findings, and I have to say early findings, we haven't done the full analysis yet as we are still implementing, indicated the primary fuel use reduced by 1 to 2 times, and also significant water savings, as because of the pot is so insulated, people use a lot less water for cooking. And water being a very scarce good in the area, this is actually a major benefit, which we did not necessarily think of when starting the project, but very positive. And there's no indication of a significant increase in electricity expenditure, showing the energy efficiency of the technology. I would say negative feedback, and I think it also aligns with what Peter was saying, is that indeed the pot size, so the ones that we tested were all 6 to 8 liters, are quite small, and the average household in Colombia are household 7, size 7, 5 children. And then also for eateries, they said it's not suitable for cooking commercially. And then also that it only has usually 1 pot. So you can only usually do 1 dish at a time. So after we found out, we actually selected a distributor partner that is actually now, which is Solaria, which is actually commercially distributing the EPCs. It's actually Power Hive EPC, which is not a coincidence, but I guess a coincidence we're both here in the webinar. They were picked because they could support us as well in terms of end user training and providing after sales support, which is quite key when we're setting up a new product and introducing it to the market. And I'm going to hand over to Mviti here to take you through the commercial distribution and the initial learnings. Thanks. So please go
thank you.
Go back
thank
to
you, Caroline. Okay, as she said, we were contracted to distribute the product in the area Kalobey settlement scheme. And one of the things that we had a challenge with was the ability of the members in that community to be able to purchase these products in cash. And so we had to come up with a credit scheme that is reliable, that is able to be implemented, that is able to be, to accommodate all the persons who wanted this product. From earlier research, we had been informed that people did need the product, but the major challenge was cash. So we developed a plan that had 4 tiers. The first obviously was cash. The second was a higher deposit for people who are in SMEs and they could pay. Then the third was a lower deposit of 2,400, and then the last was 1,500 deposit, and a longer repayment period of 20 weeks. That has been the most popular, but unfortunately, due to the time period, because this was a pilot and not a long-term sales engagement, we had to remove the 1,500 deposit and the 20-week repayment plan. And now we've stuck on the 2,400 and the 12-week repayment plan. The other repayment plan was for 4 weeks. That is, people are supposed to pay weekly. And then the other challenge we had also was how to secure, because a lot of our customers are not Kenyans, but people who have been displaced from their countries and are living in that settlement. And there's a lot of fluidity in terms of movement. Many are being repatriated. Others are difficult to catch up with. We had to come up with a system on how to get people to know where they are and how to engage them in a manner that we will be able to follow up on payments. And so we came up with a system where we approached members of the groups, and by groups I mean VSLAs and chamas and school communities, any community that could be in an organized group that has at least some measure of credibility, or at least is known to the leadership in the community. And so sector leaders identified several groups, and within those groups we also asked that they be divided into mini groups of 3, and each group would have one person purchasing. Each group of 3 would have one person purchasing, and the other 2 would be guarantors, and they would sign the guarantor form. And then once the first person has finished paying, they could go on to purchase they themselves. But as long as they were guarantors, they could not purchase. That was the initial strategy and plan. As I'll show later, that one we had to modify it because of the numbers we needed. I'm still on the previous slide. If you could go back, please. So we've done some marketing activities to try and stimulate demand for the product within the region. And first of all, our route to market was through our coordinator. We have a project coordinator doing this work. And then we also have agents who we've hired on commission to do the job. And in addition, we've been supported by SNV to do road shows and radios and cooking demonstrations, which are very effective in demonstrating that the product is actually good for use. As others have said, that product, the Power Hive product has very good economy, and when compared with other cooking modes in terms of the cash benefit and also the speed of cooking. So the demand is there. It's high demand. And if we are thinking in a place like Kakuma, the demand is so high. In other places, it could be even higher. And so with the radio talk shows and the road shows and the door-to-door marketing as well. And also another very important one we discovered was end user safety trainings, because this is a pressure cooker and a wrong use could lead to injuries and things like that. And so the cooking demonstrations and end user safety trainings were very, very important. In addition, we've had, we are looking for alternatives for after sales services, but basic troubleshooting. We had our members trained, our coordinators trained, and also 2 persons from SNV have been trained for basic, just maintenance of the product. If you could go to the next slide. So far we've sold 55 units in a period of less than 2 months. So the uptake is well above the rate we had expected, because we were supposed to sell 80 units in a period of 4 months, I think. And so the demand is there. Repayment plans, because of the way we structure the repayment plans, it's better than we've had outside of Kakuma in the main, Kenya market. because people know each other, and we had structured such that people can give guarantees for each of the members. The 20-week payment plan is the most preferred. If we are to roll out this sale, which we hope to do, this kind of model of sale of EPCs, we would be using the 20-week repayment plan and the guarantors format. But with the challenge here is that the groups themselves are not a very good method of distribution, because they sometimes have their own internal mechanisms, internal rules and conditions for action that do not accommodate our methods. Some of them have already made contributions into the group for loans and things like that, and our model was not plugging in so well into what they wanted to do. But there's very broad demand from the regions. Lastly, I just want to say that we have appreciated the plan, the model developed by SNV and other partners like Freshen and others who have developed this sales model, and we are looking to expand it. We are looking for a partnership with PowerHive. I hope we'll be able to get to talk to Peter later to get a partnership with PowerHive to be able to roll out the EPCs in our other outlets outside of Kakuma. So I really thank you, and that's what I have to present for now.
Thank you. I will make it very short, just the last one. So we're looking at, we're also from SNV collecting the data from a research perspective, also looking at the impact on the mini-grids, seeing what if the consumption increased from the uptake, and then also really looking at what do players like Solaria, like distributors, need in terms of further roll out this technology within the wider markets and on-grid settings. So that's what we will be looking at, and hopefully we'll be sharing those results and learnings in October. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Goen, and thank you, Ndunda. Maybe points to take home that we've learned from that is that you have different modalities of how the equipment is paid for. And the challenges that we're looking at is the end user trainings and after sales maintenance. We continue with our presentation. Our next presenter will be Anderson Bett. Anderson is from PowerGen centralized customers team, supporting our country business units, including Kenya, Tanzania, Nigeria, and Sierra Leone, with the customer initiatives. His customer experience spans from the earliest stages of community stakeholder customer engagement through a customer management and follow-up once the power grid is operational, i.e. the demand simulation, productive use of energy, and customer engagement. Anderson, kindly take over.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Hope everyone can hear me clearly. Yeah, I'll start off with a quick intro of PowerGen. Yeah, so PowerGen is a leading private utility company in Africa with more than 120 employees in 5 locations. That's Kenya, Tanzania, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, and Benin. We have managed to install more than 325,000 complex renewable energy systems and have more than 20,000 mini-grid customers under management. Next slide. Yeah, so I'll mostly be sharing our experience piloting EPCs in Tanzania and Sierra Leone. We'll start off with the pilot that we did in Tanzania back in 2019, whereby we won a grant from X for the demand simulation study entitled Accelerating Uptake of Electric Cooking on AC Microgrids through Business and Delivery Model Innovations. Can see the full report linked there. So we selected EPCs because they were good product market fit. both on how customers cook and extremely high energy efficiency. So prior to deployment of the EPCs to site, we did some surveys on the 2 sites that we had planned to deploy the EPCs in, and found that customers were paying for the biomass fuel, primarily charcoal. These were more of sort of peri-urban sites, whereby customers depended more on charcoal rather than firewood. And with the implementation side, we partnered with a local NGO called Tatedo, which has experience with women empowerment, customer engagement, and training on electric cooking in Tanzania, and managed to sell EPCs to 25 customers into our sites. So on the photo on the right, you can see one of our customers who was previously using a traditional cook stove and managed to turn her to be an EPC customer. Next slide. Yeah, so even prior to going to site to sell the EPCs, we bought some samples. We settled on the Nikai 6-liter EPC, which we found that it catered for our households, where majority, the average number of people per household in our sites are 6 people. So based on the testing that we did, we found that the 6-liter Nikai EPC will cater for the needs of our customers. We did the testing to determine the energy consumptions on different types of dishes, and also the costs that it will cost to our customers on cooking of various dishes. We selected most of the common cuisines in Tanzania, such as rice, beans, ugali, meat, vegetable stews, and tested out how long it will take to cook these different dishes, the cost that it will take, and if it will cook these dishes well. The retail price for the EPC at that time was about 100 USD, and the payment plans that we provided to the customers was payment for the EPC full cash upfront, and also hire purchase, whereby customers could just pay a deposit and pay the rest of the amount in 9 monthly installments. And based on the experience from that, the repayment rates were quite low at around 60%, especially for those customers who took up higher purchase. And based on that lesson learned, we managed to deploy an innovative payment plan in our ongoing pilot in Sierra Leone, which is called an on-bill. So the on-bill payment plan is whereby a percentage of the amount that customers top up to go towards their energy credits is deducted to pay for their EPC. So we have found that this leads to good repayment rates, whereby since customers prepay for their energy credits, a percentage between 10 to 30% of every amount that they top up goes towards repayment for their EPC. So this has led to improvement in our repayment rates. Next slide. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we have an ongoing pilot in Sierra Leone, whereby early this year, we managed to sell EPCs to 50 of our customers in our sites. And after a 3 months period, we deployed a survey to gauge the customer experience. And what we found is we got an average net promoter score of 8 out of 10 from our customers. So majority of the surveyed customers responded that EPCs have improved their respiratory health and reduce the time that it takes to reduce the cost of cooking and also the time that it takes to cook their dishes. That's in Sierra Leone. Next slide. Yeah, we also asked the customers what they love about the EPCs and what we could improve on. And 7% love the EPCs because it reduced their cooking time. And what areas of improvement, what customers would like us to improve on is on training. So we did some in-person hands-on training to the customers. But afterwards, during the first sites, we left site without leaving any user manuals or training some local champions to take over and to support us with after sales and continuous training of the customers. That's why we got this feedback. But based on this feedback, we have been able to improve, whereby we have been able to use our local staff. So as we build our AC mini-grids, we hired a local agent to support with energy sales and also local technicians to support with resolution of technical issues with the mini-grid or also with the connections in customers' houses. So we were able to train and onboard these two local staff to support us with after sales and also continuous training of the customers. And we were also able to prepare some user manuals to live with the customers to support with continuous training. Next slide. Yeah, so some of the lessons that we have learned from deployment of these pilot projects in Tanzania and Sierra Leone is that in-person training, demonstrations, and marketing are really crucial for uptake. It is also important to have a presence on the ground for sales, training, and follow-ups. So after the on-site demonstrations, whereby we cook with the customers and explain to them how these EPCs work, we also hire local champions who are people who are really enthusiastic about the EPCs. We train them, and also, as I mentioned, we have local staff who we onboard and we give them some comprehensive training on how the EPCs work. We leave with them extra EPCs and they're able to continue with after sales and also with training once our staff have left site. Also, EPCs empower women by freeing up their time and energy for other activities and reducing indoor pollution. EPCs are good fit for customers' preferred dishes. We test out various popular dishes in our countries that we have been able to deploy the EPCs, Tanzania and Sierra Leone, prior to going to site. And also on site, we are able to cook with the customers, confirm to eat together, show them that these EPCs are able to cook their favorite dishes. And we have been able to confirm that these EPCs are good fit for customers' preferred dishes. And also, as we design our mini-grids, we make sure that we are able to size for these demand stimulation appliances such as EPCs and also other productive use of energy equipments. And we have also been able to confirm that we are able to capture cooking energy consumption and revenue on mini-grids through the EPCs. Yeah, the final slide captures a testimonial from one of our rural customers, whereby they feel that with provision of the AC power that we are providing to them and also with sale of these modern equipment such as EPC, they feel that they are now living in towns and they're able to receive life comforts that otherwise they will not have while without the reliable AC power and without these modern appliances such as the EPCs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anderson, for your elaborate presentation. We have noticed that you have brought out the linkage between women empowerment and electric cooking, which is a very positive attribute towards women empowerment. And you've also pointed out that the challenges you're having is in-person training, demonstrations, and marketing as a way of improving the uptake of EPCs. Thank you much for your presentation. The next presentation will be by Lorna Nyandat, who is a social impact officer at Kudura Power East Africa. In this role, Lorna leads a national team that oversees sustainability and impact strategy and programs that focus on most defining and urgent issues of our time, where Kudura can have the greatest impact as a company on climate change, human rights, and gender equity. Lorna, kindly take the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. My name is Lorna. I work for Kudura Power East Africa. So Kudura Power East Africa is one of the largest mini-grid companies in Kenya. And in Kudura, we are guided by our philosophy, which is the Ubua philosophy, where basically means universal basic utility access, where when we go to a community for connection purposes of electricity, we ensure that everyone living in the community, regardless of level of income, sexual orientation, disability, gender, etc., they're able to be connected to our grid. So Kudura, we have over 4,000 customers in 14 sites, both in Busia County and Kajiado counties. Sorry? Okay, I had thought someone talked. Okay. And probably we can go to the next slide. Our business in Ubua philosophy, we basically believe that a happy customer is paying and consuming customer. So much as we are a social enterprise, we also ensure that then our customers be able to meet their needs, and also our customers are able to equally uptake our services and the products that we offer. We have deployed different appliances in the community in both in Busia and Kajiado counties, and we do this through a customer experience team that consists of course, the customer experience manager who has field agents and the SME team. So basically, we have like 6 departments in the organization, and all the 6 departments work towards ensuring it's a multifaceted approach where all the 6 departments ensure that the customer experience team that is in charge of deployment of products is able to meet its objectives. And we do this through ensuring that we have NPS surveys conducted for both for employee satisfaction and equally for our customer satisfaction. Next slide, please. So the journey to introducing an appliance, especially electric pressure cookers, we began through the class pilot that we did in 2020. And we normally do this through our SME agents, who whenever we have like a new appliance to introduce to the market, we do 3 to 6 months pilot just to get trends and perceptions of our customer, collecting data, of course, on are they finding it usable? What is the affordability? Are they okay with the affordability, considering we serve the rural poor in the two counties? And then we do the sourcing. We do sourcing of appliances through our procurement process. So for this case, where we did the electric pressure cookers, we sourced and focused on and settled on Von Hotpoint that provided us with the pressure cookers through Acumen funding. And after the purchase of the pressure cookers, we went ahead to carry out market storming in terms of like marketing and just making sure that then this product was known by the respective communities that we were taking the EPCs to. Next slide, please. So our distribution channels, are we on the same slide? Our distribution channels our distribution channels that we use, and some of the challenges we have faced is that normally EPCs are sold at, we sell them at subsidized rates, and they're distributed by our SME agent. So we have our customers pay a deposit of like 300 shillings, and the EPC goes for 2,500 shillings. So the customer is paying the 300, and then they get the EPC given to them, and they go through in-person training, like my other colleague just had explained. And then the other rest of the balance is paid through hire purchase whenever they pay token. It's like split billing, where we take half of it goes towards token purchase, and then the other half goes towards repayment of the EPC debt. And then this is done over a period of time, and when the customer has finished paying, then they go back to normal billing. So some of the challenges that we have faced over the period that we have implemented the EPC program is that we have had a few delinquencies. Like I have mentioned, we serve the rural poor in rural Kenya. So sometimes obtaining a specific credit score for customers is a bit of a challenge. So when a customer comes with 300 shillings, and then we give them the EPC, and sometimes the payment period takes longer and all that. And then we've had higher tariff on energy tokens, especially for mini-grids in Kenya, because of what EPRA has done over the years when it comes to KPLC power being a little bit cheaper than mini-grid. So our customers, because being that they are very much close to KPLC customers in some areas, they of course complain of a higher tariff token rates. So another challenge we faced is that, for example, the last set of EPCs we deployed, we were given a specific time frame, and like I had shared before, we serve the rural poor, and sometimes this strict time frame and periods given to implement, especially introduce new products to a set of people, provides a challenge in that sometimes you might imagine that it would be taken up fast, but in retrospect, you need more time to ensure that then there's acquisition of the property of the product, and that the community are able to own it and actually embrace the product. So opportunities that we've been able to learn over the months and the period that we've done the deployment is that we need, basically, before introducing any appliance, EPC notwithstanding, is that there needs to be a pilot of some sort, just ensure that this product is given to a few people just to test what exactly how would they accept it, because we serve different cohorts of members in the community. So a pilot would really be insightful to determine what kind of EPC to bring, how much to charge it, and how long we can actually foretell how long it would take to deploy a certain number of EPCs. And then another opportunity is that if we are deploying other plans, especially EPCs, that we maybe consider subsidizing energy tokens for the duration of that project. For example, if we are for anyone who has purchased an EPC and they purchase token, any customer having an EPC and they purchase token, we can have some sort of arrangement to just subsidize the energy tokens in a way, 70-30, 80-20, depending from the trends of the revenue collected. And then another opportunity is to just basically conduct a survey before deploying appliances, because sometimes some appliances, especially the first set of EPCs that we received, was because it was donor driven. So we take it to the community, and because we have to meet certain standards to ensure that we are continuing to build business, but really we didn't get the insight of the community members, like, is it an EPC that they want, and this EPC, do they want this type of EPC, or what exactly are they looking for if we are to bring in an electric pressure cooker to them? So that is all I had to present. Yeah.
Thank you, Lorna, for your elaborate presentation. Maybe some points to take home here was in-person training, which has been amongst all the presenters today after sales repairs. And the challenges that you've pointed out is the time frame of implementing the project. Our next presentation will be a roundtable where we'll be having the presenters who have just presented joined by Elliot, who is a research director at Access to Energy Institute, A2EI, Penny from ARC, Power Rwanda, Lillian, I don't know if Lillian has joined us already, but Lillian is from Hydrobox Kenya Limited. They'll be taking some questions in regards to the experience in the e-cooking sector. The first question we'd like to send forward is, what is the future outlook for electric cooking in the mini-grids? This can be answered by any of the people who are on the round table. We have 2 minutes, please. Anderson, would you like to take that?
Yeah, sure, Paul. For the future outlook for electric cooking in mini-grids, I think one of the key challenges with electric cooking on mini-grids is the tariffs. So with the lack of subsidies for tariffs from the private utilities, it's a bit of challenge to deploy electric cooking and EPCs because the tariffs are quite high. So I think if with the tariff subsidies, it could further help to increase the uptake of electric cooking, especially EPCs in mini-grids. Also, rice cookers are a type of electric cooking that we're also looking at. We have found that rice cookers could basically also cook dishes well, similar to EPCs, and it's something that we are currently looking into. Thank you.
Thank you, Anderson. Anyone else would like to have an input on this one too? So Peter Dara.
Okay. What I think I can add on this, you know, as a private, we have high tariffs. For us, what we have done is to just promotional bundles, actually to enable these customers use the electric pressure cookers. So before maybe the tariffs are lowered, normal tariffs are lowered, so we can actually implement promotional bundles so that we can encourage the e-cooking system.
Thank you, Peter, for that. Our next question will be, do you think that all mini-grids will include cooking loads by 2015? This question I would like to present to Elliot, if he's available.
Yes, hi. Hope you can hear me okay. Thanks for the question. So personally, I think yes, I think all mini-grids will include cooking loads. Some of the research that we did in Tanzania on one of these power gen sites showed that when the cooking tariff, when the electricity tariff was extremely low, set to the national tariff level, that households were actually using twice as much energy on an electric pressure cooker as they were on every other appliance, which I think is really huge. And I think means that going forward, you know, would a mini-grid electrify a household that was not going to use lights, right? When a mini-grid plans to electrify a community, I think it should plan to include cooking because it can be one of the most profound base loads for that mini-grid, improve the financial sustainability as well as improving the lives of the people using the appliances. So I think it's inevitable, and it's a question of finance in terms of how we get there.
And maybe to add on it, yes, I think all mini-grids would include cooking loads by 2050. This is because when we began implementing or deploying the EPCs, we had some shell subsidy and tokens were subsidized. And at that time, we really had a lot of our customers using the EPCs. So when the subsidy ended, then the number of customers who were using the EPCs reduced. So I think if we could, just like has been mentioned, if we could have some sort of excuse me, regulation on the tokens, then we would have higher uptake of EPCs. Yeah.
Thank you, Lorna, for that. We'll have our next question. This one will be directed to Kaljin and Billy. Is it better to stimulate demand on existing grids or to design new mini grids with cooking loads?
Yeah, thanks. I think it should not be an or question. It should be a both question. I think, yeah, it is very important to stimulate demand on existing grids. What we often see is that there is, even on the national grid, an underutilization of using the capacity the grid supplies. So people, appliances, especially in the households for lighting, phone charging, but not for those heavier appliances such as fridges, fans, TVs. Potential to stimulate uptake of other appliances, including EPCs, which also of course comes with other benefits. And then at the same time, of course, looking at the levels of electrification, there is still a gaps. And so when looking into development new mini grids, I think, as already said earlier, now that we're demonstrating that there is demand, that people are interested to use EPCs, this also increases the business case and the financial viability of new grids if cooking loads are also incorporated. So I think it should be a matter of doing both. Of course, keeping in mind the capacity of a mini grid. It needs to be able to sustain the cooking load. So you need to be quite careful when you are introducing EPCs to an existing mini grid and do the analysis on if there is a technical capacity to actually absorb all the additional appliances. But yeah, that's of course done on a case-by-case basis. And fortunately, with the mini grid technology, there is a lot of data available where you can do an informed analysis. So that would be my take. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Any input from Bidhi?
No, not really. She's more qualified and I think she answered quite well.
Thank you, Bidhi. The next question we have is, which appliances are mini-grid developers most interested in? This question I would point out to Penny from ARC. Penny, if you're with us, kindly.
Hi, afternoon. Yes, I'm here. And thanks to all the various colleagues for presentations. I think that was really concise and good summary of what we experience with our power and the challenges everyone's facing. So just in terms of appliances, obviously, can you hear me okay? Hopefully you can all hear me okay. Anyway, let me carry on. In terms of the appliances, obviously daytime usage is a big one for solar PV mini grids, which is our focus. Things that look at community development, also really important. And whatever we can do to increase the use of our power, obviously that's huge for economic sustainability of mini grids. So I would say from a electric pressure cooker and a cooking perspective, generally what we've worked around a lot is looking at tariffs. So having a favorable daytime tariff to encourage cooking during the day. Obviously it's not realistic to expect all customers to always cook during the daytime, but we've had quite a lot of success in that respect with kind of changing behavior and changing the way people plan around their day to allow cooking to happen during the daytime. So I would say very much for us, it's around what that community development could look like, what products can actually be beneficial and appliances can be beneficial to be favorable for the whole community and to really develop the community and the productive use of electricity.
Thank you, Penny. Is Lillian in the house? Lillian from Hydrobox. Our next question will be to the general panelist up there. Is anyone promoting e-cooking and other clean fuels like LPG to their customers to encourage them to shift completely away from biomass? This is generally to all the panelists up. Can be taken by Lorna Anderson, Carl-Jean Biddy.
We are not currently promoting, of course we are promoting e-cooking, but through EPCs, of course, we are not, at the moment, we are not doing any LPG or, but just basically encouraging them to shift, of course, from firewood and charcoal, but we are basically just promoting the EPC at the moment, not LPG.
Hello.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, go on.
Oh, Colin, go ahead. Okay. From what we've experienced on the ground and the reports we're getting is that this kind of changeover, this is a kind of a paradigm shift because of the ways people cook, the kind of foods that people cook, and getting them to use EPCs, and especially EPCs are the most favorite because open things like cookers that use what was the earlier one? Anyway, EPCs are the most efficient, and it needs people to start experiencing them across the board so that they can encourage others to get to use them. But the EPCs are definitely a better deal when it comes to the cost of cooking and even the availability of biomass. So I think it's a slow changeover, and needs advocacy, and it also needs demonstration, and it needs person-to-person exchange on their experiences in order for that change to happen. I don't think it's a quick changeover.
Thank you, Billy.
You had.
Yeah, thanks. I think you put it very rightly. I think we also need to live in a reality that it's very complex the way that people cook, and people have also very different cooking needs. And depending on that, they will choose which technology to cook with. So I think, you have to really look per context and per cooking needs, what type of fuel would be the best solution for them, looking at affordability, looking at accessibility, all these things. I think, for us in our project in Kakuma, we do not promote LPG, but we try to make choices available for people that either, from biomass are most efficient, and really cater for both their household needs, business needs, and also institutional needs, because also the quantities that people cook are also very different on the technology they choose. I think for e-cooking, for households, we're making promising steps in Kenya as well. We can see by this community now is becoming more and more familiar to people, but still EPCs, as the EPC size is available in the Kenyan market, they will mostly only cater for households. And so when we look at businesses or even schools, there's just not solutions yet available, electric cooking solutions available that they can use that meet their cooking needs. So I think we can unfortunately not really talk about the black and white scenario if it's one or the other, but it should be, probably a combination of both. And we should just continue to explore that. Thanks.
Thank you, Colleen. You've just talked about affordability, which leads us to the next question. What appliance financing mechanisms have proven effective for developers? This I would gladly ask Anderson or someone from Power Hive to explain to us.
Yeah, I can go first. On Powergen's side, as I mentioned, we introduced the on-bill financing mechanism, whereby customers, a percentage of the amount that customers top up to go towards their energy use is deducted to repay for their EPCs. So these has been really effective in that customers prepay for their energy through purchasing through mobile network operators, mobile phone, which have been linked with mobile network operators. So as they prepay, a percentage between 10 to 30% goes towards repayment for their EPC. The challenge with that is that it takes a longer period of time, maybe between 1 to 2 years. But we are assured of 100% repayment. And also, yeah, we also assured that it will be fully repaid for.
Thank you, Anderson. I've seen the chat has been quite busy. I'll take a few of the questions that are on the chat and hand it over to the plenary in general, all the participants to ask questions if they have any. One of the questions is to everyone from Leonard Nyongesa. Have anyone tried to influence the mini-grid companies to bundle the power bill together with payment for EPC? Has it been successful? If so? That, I think, is a question to the developers of the mini-grids. Another question. This is to Awar from Didi. Hello, Awar. The EPC sells for this amount depending on the payment. I think that was a comment.
Actually, that's a reply to an earlier question. You could look up a bit, you'd see the question.
If you have a question, kindly just go ahead and read the same so we can pick it from there. I'm trying to get the question. But if you have it, you can go ahead and present the same.
Okay, just a moment as I look for it.
In the meantime, as it's looking, anybody else?
Yes, I have it. I have it. The question was logged at 1:37 p.m. by Awor Otieno. Thank you so much, Valeria, for the presentation. How much is the EPC retailing in Kakuma and how do you mitigate against payment default? And so our response was what you are reading. If I can just read it out. The EPC sells for 94.30 to 99.75, depending on the payment model chosen. As we had mentioned, there were several payment models. On the question of default and how we mitigate, we currently have a default of 5% default rate, which is actually 3 units out of 55. And remember, this is a pilot, so it's not perfectly indicative of what would happen when we roll out. The way we deal with the default is that, first of all, prevention is key. Because we can't get a CRB rating of the refugees, or let me call it displaced persons, the thing that we try to rely on is the group leaders. The group leaders would give us an indicator of who is capable based on their history in the group, because most of these groups are microfinance groups. They would know who pays and who does not and who is a good credit risk. And so we rely on that information. The second level is that we have guarantors who sign payment. Even though the guarantee forms are difficult to enforce, especially if you have a large sales volume, you don't want to you don't want to be taking people to court every now and then for repayment. Also, the law has slightly changed right now, where you can have quick turnover on complaint on suits that are under 1 million. We can have resolution in a month, but still does not resolve the issue of many complaints. But the guarantors tend to give a good second tier solution rather than the courts, so that if somebody doesn't pay, the guarantors would force them to pay. The third tier would be the actual group they are in. Their savings could be recovered in order for payment. And of course, the last one is the law itself. So with those measures, I think we can get a higher level of recovery than we would in the open field when we go door to door. Thank you.
Thank you, Bidhi, for that insightful opening on that one. I would like to put the questions to the audience. If any member in the audience has a question, kindly feel free to ask.
Hi, Paul, can I come first?
Please do, sir, Danson. Please do. Thank you.
Thanks. This is Danson from Kakamega. Thank you for the wonderful meeting and presentations. Now, my question is to PowerGen. When you talk about mini-grids for e-cooking, are they being used as the primary source of power for the e-cooking exercise, or it's a supplement of the same? And then number two, I'd also like to inquire about the tariffs that come from the mini-grids. Are they affordable considering, compared to the on-grid supply? Because I think that this should be an alternative to the existing grid. So I think this is also an issue that I really request for an answer. Thanks a lot.
Anderson, that was your question, kindly.
Yeah, thanks, Danson. Our mini-grids are solar hybrid mini-grids, whereby we have diesel gen sets as backups, but the primary source of energy is solar. As to the tariffs, we have been trying out different types of tariffs, such as time of use tariff, whereby the daytime rate is a bit cheaper than the nighttime rate because of the solar energy being produced during the daytime. That has worked quite well with these EPC customers. We have also been trying out what we call the block rate tariff, whereby as customers increase their usage, the rate becomes lower after they surpass a particular set threshold. But all in all, our tariffs are a bit higher, more expensive than the on-grid tariffs because of lack of subsidies to the private sector. But I'm glad that more investors are coming into the sector and providing subsidies on tariffs, such as Rockefeller, mostly Rockefeller, and these subsidies have been really handy in terms of reducing the burden to the customer on what they actually pay as the tariff. But tariff customers are really cost conscious, so as the EPCs are being deployed, we always try to make sure that we come up with innovative types of tariffs, such as the the time of use tariff, whereby the daytime rate is a bit cheaper, so as to reduce the burden that the customers feel on running their EPCs. I hope I've answered your question well.
Yes, thanks a lot. Paul, if you can allow just one more, just asking, I've been in the fuel sector for a while, in the briquette sector for a while, and one of the things we've been trying to balance is between the fuel and the appliances used, and the stoves and the rest. Now, in this aspect, I see the stoves, the EPCs being like the stoves, and then power itself, the source of power as being the fuel for it. And I've seen most of the times you have been concentrating more on the lowering of tariffs and working around that. I don't know if also trying to work around the price of the appliances could also assist to kind of speed up the uptake of these e-cooking, because if we concentrate much more on the tariffs and then we leave the price of the appliances a little bit high, then you find that the presentation from Kakuma, you find that there are also some customers who are finding it a little bit difficult to pay the deposit and then the subsequent rates. I don't know if maybe you could think around that and then involving the governments to bring in subsidies for and things like tax relief on the appliances that use e-cooking. Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. Before you respond to that, we'll take a question from Mrefu, then Simon Butler. Mrefu, Baraza.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you, colleagues. Just a quick question. And I joined a bit late, so apologies if this issue has been tackled before. So AMDA recently released the benchmarking report, the 2022. And in this report, we see that the number of total connections to mini-grids is about 80,000. And the total installed capacity is about just under 7 megawatts. So if we do a quick calculation, that translates to about 80 watts per connection, 80 per connection. And a standard EPC would have the power rating of about 800 watts. Of course, some even go as high as 1,200 watts. So the question I have is, how do you square that as a mini-grid developer? Because the power available, so not the electricity, the power available to a connection on average, and of course this is on average, it depends on the mini-grid site, the power available on average is 80 watts, but we're introducing appliances that consume up to 1,000 watts. So the question to, I think the presenters is, how do you think of this technical challenge? Because I find it very hard to wrap my head around the two. So 80 watts and you're introducing appliances that are up to a kilowatt. Thank you.
Simon Butler, then we can take the answers from the panelists.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to build on Mrefu's interesting observation, because many of the presenters talked about people needing a slightly bigger EPC, and I've recently been conducting tests on 20-litre EPCs, but they all come in at around 3 kilowatt consumption. So that makes it even worse, Mrefu. Of course, diversification means that you don't switch them all on at once. But my question was actually going to be about wiring, whether the mini-grid developers felt that the wiring that they were putting into the household was strong enough, even for the 1 kilowatt APC, but also asking them for feedback. Would it be helpful if we as MEX stimulated a 1.5 kilowatt but 20-litre EPC? So a much bigger EPC, but not at the 3 kilowatt that's currently commercially available. Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you, Simon. This, I think, was directed to Lorna Nyandat, Anderson Bett, Peter Ondara. Please feel free to respond.
So for us, what normally happens is that our customers are divided into different tiers. We have tier 1 all the way to tier 7 being businesses. So the amount of power that is supplied to a specific customer is dependent on which tier the customer is at. So if a customer is in tier 1 and they're able to purchase an EPC, we automatically upgrade this customer to tier 3, because for one to use the EPC, we have to be in tier 3 and above. So for us is we regulate, not every customer gets the same amount of power. We have divided them into different tiers. So depending on an appliance that a customer purchases, we are able to upgrade the customer into the required tier for them to be able to use the appliance.
Thank you, Lorna, for that. Power Hive. Peter Ondara.
The feedback I can give to customers who actually need bigger EPCs. Maybe these customers need these EPCs for commercial use. That's for businesses. Some of our customers have hotels, so they need big EPCs actually to realize their profits. So it will be not expensive to use these big EPCs, since it is a business. of which as long as they will get some profits. Maybe that's what I can respond. Maybe there are some questions here that were asked on the chat. Maybe it's high time I can respond. Sorry for interference.
No, sorry. There's a question that Mrefa asked, and Bachelor also asked the same question. Can the load be handled by the wiring that is being put in place? Can it handle the load?
Maybe I can jump in and address these two questions here. This is Elliot from Access to Energy Institute. So we've definitely seen in cases that households on some mini grids might not have the wiring capable to support even a 1 kilowatt EPC. So we have experienced that. We've also seen in some of our studies areas where a group of households connected to a transformer, right? That could be a potential issue there. On the other hand, we've also seen, so there is a possible need for upgrading the power infrastructure at the household and sort of last mile level. We've also seen in studies though that a similar sort of installed capacity to number of customers on a mini grid ratio as what Mrefu referenced, the 80,007 megawatts. We collected data on when people were cooking, how long they cooked for, and our analysis of that was at a similar ratio that we didn't really anticipate much of a problem, or it would be a minor problem. However, I think what is going to be important here is if everyone that we would like to cook with electricity all got electric appliances today and they all began cooking and they got a full stack of electric appliances, then yes, this could introduce problems for the grid. But I do believe these are things that we can plan around. And I also think that we can view this demand for energy as a potential pathway for improving the financial sustainability of rural electrification, because right now, if you are talking about electrifying rural households, the energy demand is very low. As an investor investing in that, you're facing an uphill battle. So I think that is an opportunity, and it can be done well if we plan around it. So I hope that answers some of the questions there.
Yeah,
Thank you,
and just
sorry,
to
Anderson.
add on to what Eliud has said, yes. Yeah, I think from the power gen side, we have had the advantage of being in the sector for quite a long time. As I mentioned, the first pilot that we did was back in 2019. So we were able to gather a lot of lessons learned from that pilot. And from even one of the grids that we sold EPCs to customers in, we had to scale the system to add in solar panels, batteries, and all other components. And I think based on the data that we've gathered, we have been taking that into consideration, oversizing the grid to cater for these EPCs and other appliances, and also productive use of energy equipment such as milling machines. Also, we have been able, on the wiring side, these wirings inside the customers' houses are very customizable. We're able to provide like bigger size of meters and bigger size of breakers to the customers. And as I also mentioned, we have a mix of customers. We have the households, the businesses, and most of the households are low consumers. The businesses are quite high consumers. So these sort of balance out, and basically because of the oversized system, we are able to cater for these EPCs, the high loads that are the high loads from the EPCs, and also on the wiring side, we're able to customize the wiring to fit the customer's needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Anderson, for that. I've seen Nixon Bukachi's hand up. Nixon, please.
Okay, thank you. I think just to add to what the panelists have said in form of e-cooking and the wiring, from where I sit, I think most of the grids might be able to handle the e-cooking loads, but then the biggest challenge would be the diversity factor that you take into account when you are doing the design of the system, because I see some of these loads being used at the same time. Basically, most people cooking in the evening, and then you either straining the grid or having a large capacity that is utilized for a relatively shorter time. So then basically the aspect of time of use tariff then comes in handy, especially for the mini-grid developers, that then you're able to encourage people to cook some other times. I don't know how practical it is depending on the work schedule, but then it gives you more flexibility to use the system other than then just sizing the system, taking into account the electric cooker, which might be used for only 1 hour in the evening, or 1 hour in the 30 minutes in the morning, or 20 minutes in the morning. So that's what I wanted to add. And then I think for what Danson had said, one of the key challenges that I think we are struggling with would be the technology shift that we have had, where most people still believe without even trying that electricity is expensive to other conventional forms of cooking. So I think is one of the things that we should be addressing. Thank you.
Thank you, Nixon. This session, I would like to hand over to John Larry, if he's available. John, kindly, you had asked a question also. If you answer the, go ahead, there you go.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks, Beryl. So yeah, I just wanted to say a big thank you for a really enjoyable session. It was fantastic to hear such fruitful debates. I want to say a big thank you to Beryl, Paul, and to the ACTS and Gamos East Africa team for putting this session together, and to all of the mini-grid developers and partners who've joined us today. It's fantastic to see so much progress in the last few years. I remember just 3 or 4 years ago, many mini-grid developers were skeptical of the idea of electric cooking due to these barriers that we've seen discussed at length today, the high tariffs, limited capacity, etc. But it's fantastic to see so many different developers now selling electric cooking appliances to their customers and capturing these existing expenditures on cooking fuels and converting them into sales of electricity units. I mean, the amount of money that people are spending on cooking fuels, we heard from SNV and Solaria at the beginning, almost 8,000 shillings every month for businesses up in Kalobeye. So that's a huge amount of money that can add significantly to the amount of revenue that developers are able to bring in, and really help to balance the books for mini-grids as a business model. So it's a really bright future for electric cooking as a tool for demand stimulation and increasing the social impact of electricity access more broadly. From listening to the debate today, then I picked out a few enablers that were common across most of the presentations that we saw. In particular, the use of energy efficient appliances. We saw how PowerHive started with hot plates, but then moved on to electric pressure cookers, which is the appliance of choice at the moment. But PowerGen already experimenting with rice cookers, so I think we're going to see an increasing number of energy efficient appliances coming through and offering a broader range of cooking services to customers. Consumer financing to facilitate the initial adoption and break down that high upfront cost. In particular, PowerGen and Kudura using on-bill financing to simplify the payment collection using existing payment channels. And then we saw a lot of discussion about the cooking tariffs to encourage greater usage of the appliances once people have acquired them. And that's actually where my question was embedded, in that we've heard talk about time of use tariffs, subsidies from Rockefeller Foundation, etc. A2I saying that the usage of electric pressure cookers shot up in their Tanzania pilots when a tariff was reduced. And my question was whether carbon financing can be used to subsidize some of the tariffs to bring down that cost. I appreciate that we're at the end of the session now, so I don't think there's time to solicit responses from that, but just as an open question to kind of encourage people to think more seriously about using that as an additional source of revenue that can be used to plug that gap between what people are willing and able to pay and what mini-grids can commercially offer as a tariff for their customers. So we also saw live cooking demonstrations, after-sales service, capturing data to be able to enable mini-grid developers to refine business models, and planning for cooking loads as being really important enablers to increase the uptake and utilization of electric cooking on mini-grids. I did want to draw attention to something that Simon had dropped into the chat just at the end there, in that the MEX program is about to launch 2 new challenge funds, one on the supply of energy efficient electric cooking devices, and one on the design of mini-grids to enable the usage of cooking devices. So please do keep an eye out for those. If you're not already signed up for the MEX mailing letter, then please do go to mex.org.uk and you'll hear on the 10th of August about the launch of the new challenge fund, and there is a pre-launch happening tomorrow, so there should be information on there already about that. And then finally, it's great to see so much collaboration between partners here. This is what the community of practice was designed to do, to bring together people from the electricity access sectors and the clean cooking sectors together to find ways to collaborate and to grow this new e-cooking sector. So fantastic to see partnerships like SMB and Solaria using EPCs developed by PowerHive, Danson connecting with PowerGen in the chat. So we really hope to see a lot more of that going forward as we continue with this series of monthly dialogues, and keep the energy flowing, because it's great to see so much enthusiasm about electric cooking. And yes, we have many challenges to overcome, but together as a community, I see us making much more rapid progress than each of us going alone. So with that, I'd like to pass back to you, Paul, and to say once again a big thank you to you as our MC today.